So one major factor about what makes for a good hobby or interest is inclusivity. So inclusivity refers to interests or hobbies that everyone can do together. Whereas non-inclusive interests would be interests that some kids will be excluded from, such as competitive team sports. Because obviously in competitive team sports, you have to be actually good enough to be able to play that sport. Okay, so there are 3 factors of inclusiveness to consider. So the first one is absolute non-inclusive. So this is when certain activities would include certain kids outright. Perfect example of this would be competitive team sports, where, again, if the kid isn't good enough to play, then they can't play the game, right? The other factor with it is that it's further separated by gender and age. So let's say you have a boy and a girl and they both like to play soccer. Well, they usually can't play on the same team. So they will still be playing on different teams. Even though they like the same interest and they're both good at that same interest, they're still split apart. So they cannot participate together. And again, competitive team sports may also be divided by age as well. So you might have 2 boys who are both good at, let's say, lacrosse, but they cannot play together. Whereas compared to something like going bowling, where it's like, obviously everyone can go bowling, they can bowl together, playing and interacting together. Whereas in competitive team sports, generally speaking, the kids will be separated. They will be split out. They will not be able to participate together. Again, there are exceptions here. Let's say, I know there's twins, for example, that might be really good at playing sports together. But a lot of times you have, the gender and age separation. And even then, you still have skill level, right? Even if, let's say, 2 kids can technically be on the same team by their age and gender, if one kid isn't good enough, they will not be able to kind of participate with the other kid. Okay, so the next factor here is appeal. So these are activities that are technically inclusive, but some kids will simply not want to do them. Mixed gender appeal will be another way of looking at it. For example, your daughter may love ballet, but your son might not, right? Because generally speaking, boys are going to be less interested in ballet than girls are. The next one we have is parental inclusivity. So remember, you want the entire family to do activities together. So when your kids are doing stuff, you want to do that with your kids, right? To have those memories, to have fun together, have those shared memories. For example, a friend of mine, he has 2 nieces that both go to dance together. Now they're both girls, so they're both like dance. Again, there's no conflict there. Where again, if you're a boy and a girl, you might have only the girl wanting to go dance and the boy not. But in this case, they have 2 girls that are taking the dance class. But dance classes themselves are age restricted, so parents cannot participate. So parents cannot participate in that dance class. So when dad takes them to the dance class, he's gonna have to either, wait around or maybe go out and do something until the dance class is over. On the other hand, let's say if you're watching movies with your kids, then you're all sitting down, you're all watching the same movie together. That's inclusivity. That's shared memories. But in a lot of activities, they're kids only. Parents cannot participate in those activities. So, when kids are not able to enjoy the same activities together, they gain diverging interests and can lead to distant sibling. Similarly, if parents are not able to directly participate in an activity with kids, that leads to distant child. Remember, the common interest strategy, as I noted here, means that the whole family should do things together and develop common interests and common hobbies. And this builds strong family bonds. So what are some inclusive interests? Well, a short list of these would be stuff like board games. Again, everyone can participate in board games together. Well, obviously, if you have a board game that maybe the younger kids can't play, then you're going to have to play games that will be inclusive to the younger kids. Okay, next we'll be watching movies. Again, there's exceptions here, right? Obviously, really adult-oriented movies, young kids won't be able to watch them. But for the most part, there's enough movies out there that the whole family can enjoy together. We have biking, swimming. Again, there's some other examples. Since the entire family can enjoy these things together with no one being left out, these will be inclusive interests. So let's look at some non-inclusive hobbies. The first one are competitive sports. Okay, because only some kids will be good enough to play. Then, it's further segregated by age and gender. So, suppose your 2 kids are both good at the same sport. They still might not be able to participate together and be on the same team because, well, they're, maybe one's a boy and one's a girl, or maybe they're different ages. And in addition, parents cannot participate either. Because when your kids are in a sports league, the parents can only kind of sit in the bleachers and watch. They can't, parents cannot actually participate in the activity with their kids. Next, we have acting/drama. So, getting drama is very competitive. For example, you might have a high school drama production with roles for 10 people, and you might have 30 people that try out. Well, then you have a 33% chance of anybody getting in, and the chance of all your kids getting roles in the same production is very, very rare. With multiple children, usually you might have one kid, the oldest kid, that will get a role in production. Now, of course, parents also cannot participate in their kids' high school theater either, right? I mean, if your kids are going to high school theater, parents cannot participate. So again, So there's like, again, this is absolute non-inclusive. Both of these would be absolute non-inclusive. And they have no parental inclusivity either. Okay, next we have ballet. So girls may like ballet, but boys will usually not be. Ballet, on the other hand, is not absolute non-inclusive in the sense that technically anybody can just join in. But again, let's be, mathematically speaking, there's a very high chance that boys will not be into ballet the same way girls are going to be. And, if you have a son and a daughter, your daughter might want to do it, but your son might not. Now, if you only have girls, that's less of a problem. It's reasonable to say that all your girls are brilliant at ballet. But, again, this has no mixed gender appeal. Okay, next is stand-up comedy. Now, this is usually done solo. So, usually this is not done as a team sort of group setting. So, that's already kind of like a solo kind of thing. In addition, many kids just don't want to go on a stage and perform. And next we have robotics. Again, you still may have some kids that are less interested in programming, though they may still enjoy the building or playing aspects. And we also have chess. Now, chess, technically anybody can play it, but realistically speaking, not all kids will be playing on the same level. So if you have one kid that's going really competitive in chess, he might actually want to go into chess tournaments, and that kind of triggers diverging interests as well, right? You might have one kid that really, really focused on being a great chess player. Another kid's like, oh yeah, I'll play this occasionally. Another one is girls. Girls are, generally speaking, less interested in chess on average. So if you have boys and girls, you might have sons that really like to play chess, but you might have daughters that, very, very indifferent to chess. Okay. Now, for interest in boys, in which boys or girls may dislike, they won't be an issue if you only have kids of one sex. Obviously, if you only have boys, you don't have girls, this is not a problem. But if you have boys and girls, you'll have problems with mixed gender appeal. Now, bigger families will be more difficult to make sure all the kids like the same things, but bigger families have a networking effect, which increases interest overlap overall, and they have an advantage. Okay, so technically, nothing is ever, absolutely inclusive. There's always outliers. Some kids might not have the ability to swim. Some kids might not be able to walk or understand board games. So obviously there's outliers, but I put inclusive as in, generally speaking, all the kids are able to do these activities. That's why I say inclusive. Again, there are outliers. There's no question. But usually, most people are going to do inclusive activities. That's the point of having inclusive versus non-inclusive. I mean, compared to something like board games are vastly more inclusive than playing sports. There's no question about that.